All right, so the first thing you may or may not remember is this word quadratic, okay? When I'm talking about a quadratic function, we're gonna just jot down a couple vocabulary words so that we're all on the same page. Okay. When I'm talking about a quadratic function, what I'm talking about is something that can be written like this. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Kind of nod your head if you remember seeing this before. Okay. We're not going to talk about this form today. This we call like the standard form. Oh, somebody's going to make me really happy right now. In standard, I know one of you is going to answer this. I know. I have confidence in you. When something is in standard form, who remembers what that tells you on the graph? The y-intercept. Yeah. Good. We're going to talk about that a little bit more next week. All right. When you hear me talking about the graph, the name that we call the graph is the word a parabola. And we've been talking about these before, okay? They look like this. We just graphed one in our opener today. So the graph of that is called a parabola. So when you hear me say that word, I'm talking about the graph of a quadratic. Okay. There are two things that can happen. They can open, well, two things we're going to study. They actually can open right and left, but they're not, those aren't functions. The ones we're going to study this chapter open up or down, okay? Just a little reminder, if it opens down, we call that the vertex, right? And the vertex, if it's on a parabola opening down, is the highest point of the graph. What's another name for that? Starts with an M. Maximum. So in this case, sometimes in class I'll say, what's the maximum? And you're like, what? She didn't talk about that. Yeah, in a parabola, the maximum is just that vertex. It's that high point. What do you think we call this one? The minimum. Okay. Then, the form we're going to study today, and we're going to study three forms. Standard form we'll get to. We're going to study vertex form today, because that's the one that's probably relates most to what we've done already. So, the vertex form, this is going to be our last vocab, is going to be f of x equals a, same A as up here, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. I know that's a lot of letters, okay? The things that are going to go into the equation are sometimes there's going to be something right here. That is going to be a vertical stretch or compression. Okay, that's nothing new. It also tells us how wide the parabola gets. Like if it compresses, it gets wider. If it stretches, it gets narrower. This is going to tell you how far it moves to the right or the left. This is how far it moves up and down. So you're going to see numbers in here. And what you want to be able to pick out very carefully is that from this equation, HK is going to be the vertex. And you already really identified that today. HK is the vertex. What do you notice, though, in the equation about H? Because what symbol do you see here that you don't see here? A subtraction. We've talked about how X is a liar. that goes along with that same vein, okay? This moves, if this was x minus something, it would move it to the right. Therefore, the vertex would be positive, whatever that value is, okay? All right, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to do one together where we're going to list the vertex and we're going to sketch a graph. I think this is going to be good based on what I saw a couple minutes ago. Okay. So we're going to graph g of x equals -1/2 x plus 2 squared. And to do that graph, we're going to first list or talk about how is it transformed from x squared. And then we're going to graph. Okay, so I like to go from front to the back. What is a negative in front do? It's a transformation. It's a reflection. Anyone know what kind? Flips it over the x-axis. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to list is reflection over x-axis. Next, they're separate things. The negative reflects it. What does that 1/2 in front do? Do you think? So you're right, it's vertical. Stretch means it would go like this. What word do we use when it goes like this? Because it's 1/2. Yes, compression or shrink. So this is a vertical compression 1/2. And then what does the plus 2 do? Okay. Yeah, nice. X is liar. Left 2. Okay, so then what I would want us to be able to do is sketch a picture of the graph. And that's where I'm really glad we spent that much time doing it last chapter, because I'm pretty confident that all of you can do this already. We didn't do a ton of compressions with shifts, but I'll show you really how to do that. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to do is, if we have to move it, we're going to move it. Left 2 would mean instead of the vertex being at 0, 0, the vertex is right here. Notice it didn't move up or down, correct? All right, what are the coordinates of this point? I think this is what you meant. Yes. Okay, now, because it's a reflection over the x-axis, normally I would go then over 1, down 1. Those are my key points. But because it's a compression of 1/2, instead of going over 1, down 1, I only go over 1, down 1/2. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to sketch another point. We're going to go over to the right 1, down 1/2, over to the left 1, down 1/2. That's the point -1, -1/2. This is the point -3, -1/2. And you're going to draw, it's a sketch. You're going to draw a U through those points. Tomorrow when I actually give you some problems to do, I'll give you a worksheet with a grid on it so you'll have that nice graph paper. Okay. Would you turn and just tell the person next to you what the vertex of that is? Good. And also, would you talk about, is this a maximum or a minimum? Okay, I heard you all. Well, not everybody, but I heard a lot of you. This is your vertex. If I asked for that, and it is a maximum. Hey, do you guys remember in algebra I did this sometimes? Well, not if you didn't have me. Who'd you have for algebra, Gabe? Oh, okay. Oh, she talked about this too. I know she did. But I only, I had some of you. I had Mason. I had Freddie. I had Abby. I had Corey. I had Soraya. I had a lot of you. Do you remember this guy? Yeah, well, we call it the axis of symmetry. Yeah. Let's put that on the graph too. The axis of symmetry cuts that, it's like cutting that parabola in exact halves, mirror images of each other. And the axis of symmetry is the line x equals -2. And just like I did in algebra, as we're moving on, guys, I will either have us do a foldable, or I'll have our forms on the board and what they tell us as reminders, because I know that's a lot to remember. Okay. How are we feeling about that? Do you feel like you need to do another example of that before we move on? Okay. Then we're going to do one more thing together, and then we're going to practice. So the one new thing that I'm going to have you guys do is we're going to write an equation in vertex form today if I give you the vertex, and then if I give you another point. So we're going to write the equation of a quadratic with vertex -2, 3, and y-intercept 0, -1. So I'm going to number these steps because this is a multi-step problem, so if you refer to it later. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to write down vertex form. You are going to plug in your vertex for H and K. Notice that this was -2, so here I wrote +2 because it's x minus -2, which would give me x plus 2. Okay. Next, what am I missing? There's one thing I'm missing from my equation, because earlier on I said the things you're going to put in are you're going to have something here, and something here. I'm missing A, huh? So what we're going to do next is we're going to plug this point in to solve for A. Reminder, the first coordinate is an x coordinate, agreed? And the second coordinate is a y coordinate. So I'm going to now rewrite my equation. And I'm going to plug in -1 for y. I'm trying to find A. I don't know what it is. And what am I going to plug in for x? 0. If this parabola, if that point's on the parabola, it should make the equation true. Okay, let's not overthink this. Order of operations, do this first. What's 0 plus 2? 2. Now do the exponent. What's 2 squared? 4. So I have negative 1 equals a times 4. Are you okay if I write that as 4 times a? I like that better instead of a times 4. Plus 3. Would you guys solve that equation? Hopefully you got a is negative 1. Good. Last step. You're going to write your equation in Vertex form, but now you know the a. So our equation is y equals, or f of x equals, negative 1 parentheses x plus 2 squared plus 3. Also, guys, today, if as a help, not so much today because we're going to be doing the whiteboard practice together, but really use your graphing calculators and Decimus as a help. You shouldn't rely on it. You should be doing the math algebraically, but like to look at the graph and make sure it matches what you have on your paper. Okay, that's what it's there for. What we're going to do is we are going to practice graphing, and we're going to practice doing that. Okay, and I think that I like to do whiteboard practice sometimes for this stuff because immediately I'm going to know if you can do it or where your struggles are and how to fix those struggles. Okay, so that's why I like to do that. So would you get out your whiteboard, leave this out. I'm guessing you're going to want to have that Vertex form handy.